Hey guys, it's Anfield here, and welcome to Top 5 Tier 10s or tank lines for new players. So for this video, I am going to do a Top 5 countdown to the best, but also for this video in specific, understand that also the list is actually a decent level of order of tanks that I think newcomers should obtain, so with number 1 being the first one, then number 2 being the second tank you obtain, and so forth and so forth. So getting us started at number 5 is the Batshot 25T. And of any of the tanks in the list, this is the one I think is most important to take the list in order, making this the 5th tank you obtain. But if you don't, and you want a bit of a challenge, the Batshot 25T is certainly a rewarding tank line. It can be very difficult to start out with. There are some low-level auto-loading tanks that aren't great or easy to play, but the tanks really do come into their own by the time you hit the 1390. Now, the Batshot does contain a lot of auto-loading tanks, which is a mechanic not familiar with a lot of other tank lines in the game. There are other auto-loading tanks, of course, in the game on other tank lines, but this one is probably one of the most dominated lists by auto-loaders. And also, a lot of the tanks are light tanks, which means you're going to have to understand how to play a light tank. But if you're looking for a challenge, or you're on your 5th tank, this is certainly a great line, because not only do you get to the 1390, which is a great tank, you also get an option. You get to go up to 2 different tier 10s from the tier 8. The Batshot is the tank I would go for first, but you do get the option to go to the AMX-30B as well from the tier 8 1390. So you do get 2 options for the price of 1 tier 8 tank line, which is also very good for your time invested. But the Batshot itself is a highly effective tank, and not only is it very competitive in pubs, it's also extremely competitive in clan wars. And so you will get a tank that once you are interested in joining a clan, you have a brilliant tier 10 to go straight into clan wars, or wargaming league for that matter. Bringing us in at number 4 is the tier 10 German heavy tank, the E100. The E100 is one of the best armored tier 10s in the game. It's a highly effective brawling tank. It has a huge alpha gun, very effective armor, and a large number of hit points to play with. The tank itself can be expensive to run, with heat ammo being pretty important to run in the E100 as its standard penetration is pretty low. The premium shells will cost you more money to run, so if you're going to run the E100, you should probably make sure that you have a premium account. If you don't run the E100 with premium, it is a little bit less effective, and you can struggle to penetrate a lot of its peers. That being said, the tank line itself is also very good, and you'll also get to play some legendary tanks. I'm sure if you're playing World of Tanks, you may already have quite a lot of historical background with tanks from the Second World War, such as the legendary Tiger 1 or Tiger 2, which are the tier 7 and 8 vehicles respectively. Other than that, you also have the E75 on the line, and the E75 is an absolute joy to play at tier 9. And so yeah, the E100 is a very good tank. It's expensive, but it's also very competitive in both pubs and clan wars, so you're getting a lot when you go up that tank line. And at number 3, we have the Russian mediums. Now I say Russian mediums because the ones acquirable through the tech tree are all linked to one tier 8 branch that you can go through to the object 416. Now, this is really good because you basically can get 3 tier 10 Russian mediums from one tier 8 line. So you're getting a lot for your investment. Now this is the first medium line I've suggested on this list, and it's a line that, while mediums aren't super newcomer friendly, eventually you will want to get mediums, and if you have gone through this list, you will have already played 2 heavies by the time you get to this tank anyway, and this is certainly a great step forward. Not to mention, obviously, again, you get so much for your time invested on the line. So I would definitely go through this line. You also get a very good tank in the tier 9 T54 to unlock 2 of the Russian mediums, the T62A and the 140. The 62A is the tank I would go for first, and then the 140, and then you can go back to the 416, eventually getting the Object 430 as well if you want to. These Russian mediums are highly effective tanks, high DPM, really nimble, great turrets. They're pretty much everything you want from a medium. They have lower alpha than some of the others, but it doesn't matter in terms of DPM. You still make up for it. Now, following the theme of competitiveness, these are probably the most competitive tanks you can get, not only in just clan wars, which is you'll see a lot of these, but also now in esports as well, the Wargaming League, you'll begin to see a lot of Russian mediums now that is tier 10 and not tier 8 anymore. So this is a very good tank line to go up. Some of the middle tiers, a little bit lackluster. The T-44 is actually really a good tank if you can stand the ammo racks, but the tank line itself towards the end is very rewarding. Coming in at number 2, we have the tier 10 Russian Super Heavy, the IS-7. The IS-7 is one of the original tier 10s in the game and has remained a competitive tank this entire time. The IS-7 practically plays itself. It's an incredible tank. It has a good alpha gun. It's got really good armor. Its turret is the best armored turret in the game. Again, with everything in this list, the tank is highly competitive in both Clan Wars and Wargaming League. The tank line itself is one of the most newcomer-friendly tank lines there is. All the way back to the lower tiers, I mean, you have the KVs, such as the KV-1S in this case, the KV-85, and the IS is extremely good. The IS-3 is one of the best, if not the best, tier 8 heavies in the game. The IS-8, which is going to be replaced with the T-10 in patch 10.0, so if you're watching this then, which you probably are since that's almost going to launch, is a pretty solid tank. And then of course the IS-7 itself, it's the tank that without the buff to the next tank on the list, almost made first place, so highly recommended. So, to finish this off, at number 1, we have the T110E5. The recently buffed T110E5 is one of the strongest tier 10 heavies in the game, and also one of the easiest and most comfortable to play. It has very good DPM, very good mobility, and it has incredible armor. This is a very newcomer-friendly vehicle, and pipped the IS-7 for number 1 spot just because it is the superior tank now. The T110E5 is highly competitive in Clan Wars and has been for a while, but since its buff, it's definitely better. The T110E5 tank line itself is actually very good. At tier 4, you have the M3 Lee, which a lot of people don't like that much, but it's actually not that bad, really. It's maybe something that you need to be a more experienced player to get more out of, but you don't spend that long at the lower tiers. Starting at tier 5 though, the tank line is a breeze. The T1 Heavy is very good, the M6 is very good, the T29 is one of the best tier 7 vehicles in the game, T32 is very good, the M103 is pretty good. It is actually one of the tanks that really sets you up nicely for the next tank, which is always good. Sometimes you get tier 9s and they're absolutely nothing like the tier 10. The M103 is a weak T110E5, but the playstyle itself will get you ready for the T110E5, which the T110E5 takes and then absolutely excels with. Okay, so that about does it with this top 5 list. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it will be helpful to some people. Remember, if you're new to the game, this list is best used as a 1 through 5 list of tanks to obtain. In other words, go for the E5 first and the IS-7, etc., etc. You don't have to do that way. You can cherry pick from this list if you want, or completely ignore it. It's completely up to you. But hopefully this will help regardless. If you have a different list that you have for this, perhaps you have different opinions on what tanks were best to obtain first, or, I didn't list the tank destroyers, so maybe you want to mention some TDs you would have added. I don't think TDs are good newcomer tanks, but, if you disagree, please let me know. And finally, if you have a top 5 list you want me to make, please let me know in the comments. Hopefully I'll be making quite a few more of these. So those of you that have really good suggestions and feasible suggestions, I will certainly take a look at and see if I can get them done. Thanks for watching, and good luck on the battlefield.